Hi, this is Harmony Quiker, and this is my first video in my offering of sheltering in place while feeling unsafe. And I just want to share a short personal story to begin with. And for me, my story is interesting to me because I didn't know that I was in an abusive cycle. I knew that my relationships were painful. I knew that I felt small and powerless. I knew that I longed for deep love, and I had a hope that I would someday have the experience of sweet, sweet, loving, intimate connection with a partner. But I didn't know that I was in a cycle of abuse and codependency. Part of the reason why is because it was so much the water that I had been swimming in my whole life. I was so conditioned in childhood to believe that it was my job to be accommodating and easy for other people. And I had a misbelief that other people were more important than me, that what other people were feeling was more important than what I was feeling, and so that my pain wasn't valid. And when anybody would tell me that I was the cause of their pain, the shame inside of me believed them. And so I colluded with the cycle of abuse. And the people that I was with didn't even know I was hurting because I was so masterful at hiding it. And this is what I call following the impulse of my attachment wound. My attachment wound when I was younger was shaped in such a way that I had misbeliefs about myself that guided me in my interactions with the world. And the attachment wounds that I have, that all people have, are such a familiar part of our inner landscape that we don't even know that they're there most of the time. It's just the wound that guides us when we're looking through that filter. And when we believe that we are our attachment wounds, when we self-identify with our attachment wounds, we forget our wholeness. We forget our essential self. We have fallen asleep to our source and connection to love, and we allow this attachment wound to be the guiding force in the way that we show up in our relationships and for the world. And it's painful. It is so painful to self-identify with our attachment wounds and believe the pain of our deepest wounding from when we were younger. So the word attachment wound comes from attachment theory in developmental psychology. And essentially, the base of this is we all want to know that we are safe in connection. When we're born, we want to know that we can reach out for our primary caregivers and that they're going to be there for us with an attuned, responsive presence. And if they're unable to be there for us, we know that we can really hold ourselves there, that we feel safe in the world around us. And this includes our siblings. Oftentimes it's the older sibling that is mean to the younger sibling, and so sometimes that attachment wound gets ignited there. It's not always with the parents. So when we know that we can reach out for our primary caregivers or the people in our family of origin, and that they're going to be there for us in a safe and loving way and responsive to us when we're in an emotional experience, we develop what is called a secure attachment. We feel secure in relationships, and we grow up into adulthood in such a way that we know that we deserve loving connection, and that if our partner isn't available for that actually isn't about us. We don't personalize it. We know that they're going through a hard time, and even if their words are about us, we know that they're just talking about themselves. So when we're given inconsistent parenting, and sometimes our parents are really nurturing, and other times they're volatile, and or neglecting, then we develop what's called an anxious ambivalent attachment system. And this means that we really, really want connection, but then we don't trust it when it's there. And so we think about how to get connection a lot. And in the cycle of abuse, this means that if our partner is in a volatile state, we work really hard to keep that connection and keep that connection. But even if it is there, we don't fully trust it. An avoidant attachment style is nurtured in an environment where there's a lot of neglect. And an avoidantly attached person believes that I have to shove everything down and you handle yourself, I'm going to handle myself. And they're very much an island. And then lastly, when we're raised in an environment where there is a tremendous amount of trauma, where there's violence and abuse and boundaries are violated and we're neglected, and maybe sometimes our parents are nurturing and available, we develop what's called a disorganized attachment style. And that means that sometimes we're an island, sometimes we're anxious, sometimes we're secure, and we're kind of all over the map in that. And it can be very confusing for the person with the attachment style and for the people around them, because they don't know what side of them is going to show up for the relationship. And so this is all to highlight the way our attachment wounds show up in our relationships. And when we self-identify with that patterned way of being, for example, if you have an anxious attachment style and you want connection and you are listening to that young one who really wants to earn love and approval and safety by being enough for other people, if you listen to that voice, then you're being guided by an outdated story that was shaped when you were very young. And so differentiating from that attachment wound and recognizing that that part, that voice, that impulse isn't who you really are. It's just part of your human that needs a lot of love and care and attention and needs to know from you that you will always love her, that you will always hold her, that you will always keep her safe and protected. Then you can start to transform the pattern of being really accommodating and pleasing to somebody who is volatile and blaming and has a tendency to only care about themselves and not the impact on others. One thing that I've learned in my own healing journey and in my work as a psychotherapist is that the more that we heal our own pain from the past and update those younger parts, the more able we are to actually receive the love that we've always longed for. By following our attachment wounds around as if they're true, we're actually getting in our way of receiving the love that we actually want. One of my favorite quotes about love comes from Rumi, and Rumi wrote many years ago, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. And this is what this teaching about attachment wounds really gets to. It's a barrier against love when we follow our attachment wounds around. And the work of differentiating from our attachment wounds allows us to come to the place in which we are loving awareness, that we are our essential self, that part of us that is untouched by the experiences that we've had in life. And from that place, we can heal our whole emotional body and our psyche and the patterned ways that we are engaged with the world. And we can discover new ways that likely feel uncomfortable and vulnerable and like we're trying on new skin, but that is in part what allows us to be in discovery and emergence of how we want to be in the world. And so like I was saying in the beginning, you might not even consider your relationship to be abusive. I certainly didn't. It took me many, many years. I was even practicing as a psychotherapist and did not know that I was in an abusive relationship and playing the abused wife and playing small and betraying myself and being in a trauma response for many years. And once I did the work of differentiating from my attachment wounds and really self-identifying with my essential self as who I really am, then I was attracted to and attracted a man who was actually caring, who cares about his impact that he has on me, who cares about the reflection. If I tell him something that I think I'm seeing in him, he'll actually receive that reflection. I had never known a man to do that before in my life. And who wants to do the work of being in a healthy, loving relationship with me. And my young one, who gets to see this, because I kind of bring her along. She doesn't go away, but I don't identify with her. I bring her along. She feels safe with my partner. And for many years, I didn't even know that I deserved a safe lover. So I'm hoping that this offers insight and hope to you. And again, I want to be offering these videos as much as I'm able over the course of this pandemic. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me at harmonyquaker.com or on my private Facebook group. I will, of course, keep your identity completely anonymous, but want to give you as much information and tools and hope and empower you as best I can from my home, from my sheltering in place. From my heart to yours, wishing you and your inner young one a tremendous amount of love and care and health and safety moving forward.